I can't move.
Stay down. Follow the order. Woof, woof. Get back.
He's a veteran. Why is this happening?
Police tased a disabled veteran and his service dog. 3 minutes later, Hells Angels surrounded the restaurant. When Officer Bradley tased disabled veteran Jake Morrison and his service dog Rex outside Bella Vista restaurant, he thought his authority was absolute until 12 Hells Angels on Harleys surrounded the establishment demanding justice. Day 1, 7:23 p.m. Bella Vista's valet parking buzzed with Friday night energy as San Diego's elite dined on Italian cuisine and harbor views. Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, 29, approached the entrance with Rex, his German Shepherd service dog, both moving with military precision despite Jake's prosthetic leg. The IED in Afghanistan had taken his right leg and left him with PTSD, but Rex had given him independence back. Tonight was supposed to be special first date since his injury. Jake had confirmed wheelchair accessibility and service dog accommodation twice when making reservations. 3 tours in Afghanistan, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, but asking for basic accommodation still felt like begging for charity he'd earned through blood and sacrifice. Rex wasn't just a dog. He was mobility assistant, anxiety alarm, and lifeline rolled into 75 pounds of German Shepherd precision. Trained to detect panic attacks, retrieve medications, and provide stability when prosthetic failed on uneven terrain. Vincent Caruso, 45, managed Bella Vista with iron fist that customer service couldn't soften when profit margins were threatened. 15 years in upscale dining had taught him that image mattered more than accessibility when wealthy clientele expected perfection unblemished by disability reminders. Officer Derek Bradley, 33, patrolled downtown with authority that 5 years had inflated beyond training or wisdom. His brother's death in Iraq had created resentment toward veterans whose survival seemed like cosmic injustice requiring correction through official harassment. Bradley watched Jake approach restaurant entrance, seeing opportunity to assert dominance over disabled veteran whose service dog represented challenge to civilian authority. That badge and uniform should control through enforcement procedures. Some battles are fought overseas, others outside restaurants where service meets discrimination and dignity, confronts ignorance masquerading as policy enforcement. Jake's reservation confirmation email glowed on his phone screen, while Rex's service dog vest identified their legal right to accommodation. But Caruso saw liability risk, and Bradley saw veteran requiring attitude adjustment through official intervention. Viral setup. Jake's nephew, Steele Morrison, was finishing dinner at nearby biker bar. A coincidence that would change everything in exactly 8 minutes, 7:25 p.m., 6 minutes to impact. "Good evening, Jake Morrison, reservation for 2, Jake announced to hostess, while Rex sat perfectly beside him in service position. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't allow pets," hostess replied nervously, glancing toward manager's office where Caruso was watching through window. "Rex is service dog, not pet. I have reservation confirmation stating accommodation for service animal." Jake pulled out documentation while Rex remained motionless professional working dog, whose training had cost $25,000 and 18 months of specialized education. Caruso emerged from office with customer service smile that didn't reach calculating eyes. "Sir, I understand your situation, but health department regulations prohibit animals in dining areas." "Mr. Caruso, Americans with Disabilities Act requires accommodation for service dogs in all public establishments. Health codes specifically exempt working service animals." Jake's legal knowledge frustrated Caruso, whose assumption about veteran ignorance had been contradicted by someone who'd researched rights that military sacrifice had earned through constitutional protections. Perhaps our patio would be more appropriate for your situation. The dismissal stung worse than IED shrapnel. Segregation disguised as accommodation, separate seating for disabled customers whose presence might disturb normal patrons expecting flawless dining experiences. Shareable moment. Nearby diner starts recording discrimination would be online in 47 seconds. 7:27 p.m., 4 minutes to cavalry. Sir, I made reservation for dining room. Service dog laws guarantee equal access to all public areas where customers are permitted. Caruso's patience evaporated as disabled veteran quoted federal law with confidence that civilian authority couldn't intimidate through policy manipulation. Security! Caruso called, while summoning Officer Bradley, whose patrol route included Bella Vista, where management cooperation ensured continued business relationship. Bradley approached with swagger that civilian complaints about veteran advocacy couldn't diminish through official channels that rarely investigated thoroughly. Problem here, Vincent? This individual refuses to follow restaurant policy regarding animals, claims some kind of special rights. Bradley studied Jake and Rex with contempt that his brother's combat death had created toward survivors whose existence reminded him of unfair universe that killed heroes while sparing broken soldiers. Service dog laws don't override business owner rights, Bradley announced, while legal ignorance masqueraded as authoritative interpretation that civilian deference usually accepted without challenge. Officer, ADA clearly states, I don't care what you think you know about laws. Restaurant says no dogs, you leave. Period. Bradley's dismissal of federal civil rights law revealed institutional bias that training should have corrected through constitutional education about citizen protections requiring official respect. 7:29 p.m., 2 minutes to thunder. Rex isn't pet, he's medical equipment. I have legal right to accommodation under federal law that supersedes local interpretation. Jake's respectful but firm assertion triggered Bradley's authority complex as disabled veteran refused submission. That official intimidation usually achieved through badge pressure. You arguing with police officer? That sounds like obstruction to me. Bradley's escalation from civil matter to criminal threat violated constitutional protections, while his personal bias against veterans was overriding professional obligations. Rex sensed Jake's rising anxiety, moving closer to provide stability support, while trained responses activated to prevent panic attack that confrontation was triggering through stress response. My dog's responding to medical emergency. Please don't interfere with service animal performing trained tasks. I'll interfere with whatever I want. You're trespassing after being asked to leave. Bradley drew taser, while disabled veteran posed no threat beyond requesting accommodation that federal law guaranteed through constitutional protections. Officer, I'm disabled veteran requesting service dog accommodation. This is civil rights matter, not criminal issue. But Bradley's finger was already on trigger, while Jake Morrison's phone exploded with emergency text from witness. Uncle Jake being attacked at Bella Vista. Service dog discrimination, officer threatening taser. Help now. Steele's response was immediate. Iron Brotherhood emergency response. Disabled Marine under attack. Bella Vista restaurant. All available units. Cliffhanger. 12 Harley engines roared to life in perfect synchronization while thunder rolled toward Little Italy. 7:31 p.m., contact. Bradley's taser struck Jake's chest as disabled veteran collapsed beside Rex, who immediately went into medical response mode checking vitals, retrieving emergency medication, and providing stability that specialized training had programmed into protective instincts. Stop resisting! Jake wasn't resisting. He was having seizure triggered by electric shock interaction with brain trauma that IED explosion had created through service-connected disability requiring medical attention rather than continued assault. Rex barked twice, trained alert signal indicating medical emergency requiring immediate human intervention, while service dog protected handler from further harm through positioning that specialized training had developed. "Shut that dog up!" Bradley screamed, while Rex's protective behavior was interpreted as aggression rather than medical assistance that federal law protected through service animal rights. Witness video captured everything. Disabled veteran convulsing beside service dog, trying to provide medical assistance, while officer showed no concern for emergency his assault had created. Caruso watched crisis unfold while understanding that discrimination lawsuit was inevitable, but hoping police support would justify restaurant's initial refusal through official validation of discriminatory policies. 7:32 p.m. Iron Thunder 12. Hells Angels materialized information that 23 years of military service had perfected through combat coordination that civilian authority couldn't match for precision or purpose. Jake Morrison led convoy Vietnam veteran whose nephew had taught him about honor that civilian failures couldn't diminish when family required protection from institutional abuse. 7:33 p.m. Social media explosion. Service dog discrimination exploded across platforms while witnesses shared video of police assault on disabled veteran whose service dog was providing medical assistance during emergency that taser attack had created. Cop just tased disabled vet and his service dog at fancy restaurant. Twitter caption broke hearts while visual evidence contradicted any claim of justified force against medical emergency situation. Caruso's business reputation crumbled in real time as Yelp reviews flooded in from viewers who'd witnessed discrimination through live stream coverage that restaurants' image management couldn't control. Steele's coordination with veteran networks activated response from military families throughout San Diego, whose combined social media reach amplified Jake's story beyond local incident into national civil rights crisis. That's my nephew Jake Purple Heart recipient, whose service dog keeps him alive, Steele announced to gathering crowd, while Iron Brotherhood formed protective barrier around medical scene. Bradley called for backup while surrounded by bikers whose military bearing commanded respect that civilian authority couldn't intimidate through standard crowd control procedures. Rex continued medical assistance while ignoring chaos around him, professional working dog whose training prioritized handlers' welfare over external threats that might interfere with life-saving tasks. 7:36 p.m. Federal response. FBI field office received direct orders from Civil Rights Division. Disabled veteran assaulted while requesting service dog accommodation. Video evidence widespread. Full investigation required immediately. Agent Patricia Martinez was en route before hanging up phone, while understanding that assault on disabled veteran requesting federal accommodation had created crisis requiring presidential-level attention. Jake regained consciousness to find Rex performing trained medical tasks while Steele provided security against Bradley's continued threats. That service dog interference was creating additional legal violations. "Where am I?" Jake whispered, while brain injury made complex situations difficult to process during medical episodes that stress could trigger unexpectedly. "Safe, nephew. Iron Brotherhood's here. Rex saved your life while that cop tried to kill you." Steele's explanation helped Jake understand situation, while Service Dog continued monitoring for additional medical events that confrontation stress might trigger through neurological complications. Caruso attempted damage control. Restaurant was following health department guidelines. "Bullshit," Steele interrupted, while federal law education was about to become expensive lesson for discriminatory business practices. Day 2, Saturday morning. Jake woke up in VA hospital while Rex maintained bedside vigil that specialized training had programmed into protective behaviors designed to provide comfort during recovery periods. Steele organized legal response, while Iron Brotherhood coordinated with disability rights organizations whose expertise with discrimination cases would ensure maximum accountability for constitutional violations. "How bad is it?" Jake asked, while processing overnight news coverage that had transformed personal discrimination into national civil rights cause. "Bad for them, good for us. Your story's everywhere." Justice for Jake trending with 2.3 million posts. FBI's involved. Restaurant's reputation destroyed. Bradley faced federal charges while Caruso's business license was under review for ADA violations that discrimination had created through systematic exclusion policies targeting disabled customers. Saturday, 2 p.m. The Reckoning, 60 Minutes called, CNN called. Every major network wanted interviews with disabled veteran whose service dog discrimination had revealed systematic problems with accommodation enforcement that federal oversight had failed to address adequately. But call that mattered came from unexpected source, Caruso's daughter. "I saw video," she said, voice breaking. "I'm disabled too. Dad never told me restaurant discriminated against people like us. I'm ashamed." Emotional moment number 1. Caruso's realization that discrimination affected his own family. Powerful revelation requiring genuine change. Day 3, Sunday morning. FBI agent Martinez arrested Bradley at his apartment, while federal charges included civil rights violations, assault on disabled person, and interference with service animal performing medical tasks during emergency. "You have right to remain silent." Bradley's perp walk trended on social media as harsher karma for Bradley joined justice for Jake, while public demanded accountability for assault on disabled veteran whose service dog had been providing life-saving assistance. But real crisis was developing at Bella Vista, where boycotts had eliminated weekend reservations while staff resignation letters piled up from employees who refused association with discriminatory establishment. Sunday, 10 a.m., business collapse. Caruso's investor meeting became damage control session as financial backers threatened withdrawal from restaurant whose discrimination lawsuit could cost millions in federal penalties and civil damages. "Vincent, explain why our establishment is trending nationally for attacking disabled veterans," lead investor demanded, while understanding that discrimination charges threatened entire business model. Caruso attempted justification through health code confusion while ignoring federal law that superseded local interpretations about service animal access rights that ADA had established permanently. Steele coordinated with disability advocates while legal strategy focused on systematic change rather than individual punishment that would address discrimination beyond single incident through policy reform. Rex's veterinary examination confirmed stress from taser proximity, while service dog's protective behavior had prevented additional injury to handler during assault that civilian authority had failed to control professionally. Sunday, 6 p.m., National Spotlight. 60 Minutes aired Jake's interview while service dog discrimination story reached 47 million viewers, whose outrage demanded accountability for institutional failures that federal enforcement had failed to address systematically. Rex isn't pet, he's medical device keeping me alive after serving 3 tours protecting freedom that includes right to public accommodation. Jake testified while Rex demonstrated trained tasks on national television. Bradley's defense attorney claimed justified response to threatening situation, while video evidence showed disabled veteran requesting legal accommodation during medical emergency that service dog was addressing professionally. No threat existed beyond civilian exercising federal rights that officers' ignorance couldn't override through badge authority. Federal prosecutor argued while conviction seemed inevitable given documented evidence. Caruso's public apology fell flat. Restaurant regrets misunderstanding about service animal policies that training oversight had failed to address through staff education. Steele's response was swift. Discrimination isn't misunderstanding. It's conscious choice to exclude disabled Americans from public accommodation that federal law guarantees. Emotional moment there are two. Jake's testimony about Rex saving his life during panic attacks, raw demonstration of service dog necessity. Monday, day 4. Bradley pleaded guilty to all federal charges while accepting 2-year prison sentence that reflected crime severity against disabled veteran whose constitutional rights had been violated during legitimate accommodation request. I let personal bias override professional duty, Bradley admitted, while acknowledging that brother's combat death had created resentment toward veteran survivors requiring systematic therapy. Jake's forgiveness surprised everyone. He's grieving his brother. Grief makes people do terrible things, but grief can't excuse constitutional violations that training should have prevented. Federal settlement negotiations began while Bella Vista faced $2.8 million penalty for systematic ADA violations that discrimination had revealed through investigative review of business practices. Tuesday, day 5. Caruso announced restaurant closure for comprehensive accessibility renovation, while management restructuring would address discrimination through systematic policy reform and staff retraining. Bella Vista will reopen as model establishment for disability accommodation, Caruso pledged, while understanding that business survival depended on genuine change rather than superficial compliance. Steele's Iron Brotherhood received federal recognition for disability advocacy, while their intervention had demonstrated community support for vulnerable populations facing institutional discrimination. 1 month later, Jake testified before Congress about service dog discrimination, while Rex demonstrated trained tasks that medical necessity had required through specialized education, costing $25,000 per animal. Steele sat in witness gallery wearing cleanest leather jacket, while Iron Brotherhood had become official congressional witnesses on disability issues requiring community advocacy. Jake Morrison Act passed unanimously, while federal funding provided service dog training grants and discrimination enforcement that systematic problems had revealed as critically needed. Bradley watched from prison, where he taught anger management while earning paralegal degree through correspondence courses focusing on disability rights law that ignorance had violated. Bella Vista reopened with universal design features, while Caruso's daughter managed accessibility compliance that personal experience with disability had motivated through genuine understanding. Rex received hero dog recognition, while his medical assistance during Taser assault had demonstrated service animal value that discrimination policies had failed to acknowledge adequately. 6 months later, National Service Dog Awareness Rally drew 50,000 people to Washington Mall, while Jake spoke from podium flanked by Rex and Steele, whose advocacy had inspired systematic reform protecting disabled Americans. Bradley's assault revealed how ignorance becomes institutional discrimination when unchecked by proper training and accountability. Jake addressed crowd while live stream reached 25 million viewers worldwide. Rex's calm presence demonstrated professional service dog behavior, while his performance during medical crisis had proven necessity that restaurant discrimination had nearly eliminated through illegal exclusion. Steele's Iron Brotherhood had established service dog advocacy chapters in 20 cities, while their support created sustainable programs protecting disabled veterans from accommodation failures. Bradley's early release included mandatory service with disabled veterans, while rehabilitation had demonstrated accountability requiring genuine commitment to civil rights rather than superficial compliance. Opposition from restaurant associations claimed accommodation requirements created operational burdens, while some establishments resisted training that disability advocates demanded for federal compliance. Additional protocols burdened staff with unnecessary complexity during service delivery. Industry representative argued, while ignoring evidence that proper training reduced rather than increased customer service challenges. Jake's advocacy overcame resistance through documented results showing improved customer satisfaction at establishments implementing comprehensive accessibility training that service dog education had provided. Accommodation improved service for everyone, not just disabled customers. Jake testified while presenting research about universal design benefits that accessibility created for general population. Federal legislation faced opposition, while some lawmakers claimed reform would burden businesses, despite evidence showing accommodation compliance improved rather than harmed profitability through expanded customer base. Community organizing provided grassroots pressure, while disabled advocates contacted representatives whose votes were needed for comprehensive service dog protection legislation. Congressional passage of Jake Morrison Service Dog Protection Act required federal enforcement of accommodation laws, while penalties increased for discrimination against working animals providing medical assistance. This law ensures service dogs receive protection they deserve while performing tasks that save lives daily. President announced, while signing ceremony celebrated Jake's advocacy achievement. Supreme Court citation of Jake's case in disability rights ruling established permanent precedent protecting service animals from interference during medical assistance that federal law had guaranteed. Service dogs performing trained tasks cannot be excluded from public accommodation. Unanimous court decision declared, while Jake's assault had provided foundation for constitutional interpretation. Jake's foundation influenced training at 200-plus restaurants, while his experience had become standard curriculum for hospitality education about disability accommodation, requiring professional competence. International attention focused on American service dog rights, while Jake's advocacy had inspired similar movements in countries addressing accessibility discrimination that global awareness was addressing. 1 year later, Jake's return to Bella Vista marked transformation from discrimination to celebration, as restaurant had become national model for accessibility excellence that comprehensive reform had achieved. Caruso personally served Jake and Rex, while establishment's accessibility features demonstrated genuine commitment to accommodation that profitable business practices could incorporate successfully. Steele's Iron Brotherhood escorted Jake to dinner, while their advocacy had earned respect that motorcycle club reputation hadn't previously generated through service to vulnerable populations. Bradley's community service included work at service dog training facility, while his transformation had influenced other officers whose bias required professional intervention through education. Rex remained focused on Jake's needs while ignoring celebration around him professional working dog, whose dedication had inspired federal legislation protecting service animals nationwide. Some battles are fought with weapons, others with service dogs, but most important ones protect disabled Americans from discrimination that ignorance creates when accommodation meets resistance, Jake reflected. Federal oversight ensured continued compliance, while Jake's case had established monitoring system preventing discrimination through systematic enforcement rather than individual complaints alone. The Jake Morrison Service Dog Foundation had influenced training at 500-plus establishments, while federal legislation required accommodation education that his discrimination had demonstrated as essential for disability rights protection. Bradley's conviction established legal precedent for prosecuting interference with service animals, while his rehabilitation had demonstrated accountability requiring genuine change. Steele's Iron Brotherhood had coordinated $300,000 in service dog funding, while their advocacy had earned recognition that motorcycle reputation hadn't previously generated. Jake's independence had been restored through Rex's continued service, while his foundation had transformed personal discrimination into systematic change protecting disabled Americans. Restaurant industry showed 40% improvement in accessibility compliance, while training had reduced discrimination incidents through education. Federal oversight ensured sustained compliance, while systematic monitoring addressed problems that individual cases had revealed as requiring comprehensive intervention rather than isolated enforcement. 3 years later, Jake Morrison served on National Disability Rights Commission, while Bradley's assault had influenced federal policy protecting service dogs from interference during medical assistance that trained animals provided to disabled handlers. Steele's Iron Brotherhood operated in 35 states, while their advocacy had created sustainable support networks for disabled veterans facing accommodation discrimination. Rex continued faithful service, while his heroic behavior during assault had inspired service dog training programs nationwide. They learned that some battles are fought with weapons, others with service dogs, but the most important ones are fought when choosing accommodation over discrimination transforms individual crisis into systematic change, protecting disabled Americans from those who would deny access, rather than provide equal opportunity that federal law guarantees through constitutional protection, requiring ongoing enforcement against ignorance that training and accountability can overcome through sustained commitment to civil rights that military sacrifice has earned. Some battles are fought with weapons, others with service dogs. But the most important ones are fought when choosing accommodation over discrimination transforms individual crisis into systematic change, protecting those who've already sacrificed everything for the freedom to live with dignity.